Lost in the vastness of space, the craftworlds float in utter isolation, like scattered jewels upon a pall of velvet. Distant from the warmth of a sun or planet, their domes gaze into the darkness of empty space. Inner lights glisten like phosphorus through semi-transparent surfaces. Within them live the survivors of a civilization abandoned aeons ago. Amidst terrifying destruction, these are the Aeldari, a race that is all but extinct, the last remnants of a people whose mere dreams once overturned worlds and quenched suns. Good evening everybody, welcome to Gloucester Tabletop Gaming. My name's Karl and tonight I will be running through with you lot at home a 1500 point Aeldari list. It is a Tuesday night here in Gloucester, and normally on a Tuesday night I will be going down to Gloucester Tabletop Gaming Community to play a game of 40k or whatever sort of seems fit, but we can't do that because of lockdown. So tonight I thought I'd show you a list that I have taken down. It's just to the right of me. It's a really cool list, I thought. Very balanced, very all-coming list, and I want to share it with you guys at home. So it'll give you a feel of the tactics I would use while playing with this army, what I want each unit to do, whether or not the dice rolls allow me to do that, that's another thing. We'll come on to we'll do a special video on my dice, but we'll save that for another video, I think. Yeah, so it is Aeldari, it is Craftworld, so got the codex ready to walk you through each unit, and hopefully you will like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, thank you for watching and enjoy the next 20 odd minutes of me rambling on about Aeldari, or Elder is the proper term from a veteran like myself. But anyway, I will get into that in a second, and yeah, I'll dive straight into the list and go through it there. Thank you. Okay, so in front of you, you will see the HQ of the list, which is a Farseer Warlock. The list is 1497 points on the money. Battalion, so 3 troop choices, 2 HQ, an elite, 3 heavy support, a flyer and 2 fast attack. That's the composition of the army. The Farseer, which is my warlord and my main doody-doo. So I like the Farseer. I used to fly with an Artok, but I started flying with a Farseer in 9th just to give it a go, and I really like it. Really like the model. And the Craftworld is Bialtan. I really like the reroll ones on Shuriken weapons, and the +1 leadership to aspect warriors, and the warlord traits and the stratagems that you can get with that. I really like them, so I run it. And to be honest, this is the first army I ever collected as a Warhammer fan back in, well, 22 years ago. Oh, and I do apologise if you hear dogs barking in the background. Bruno and Dexter are out and about. And Dexter seems to have a hard-on for getting into Bruno's cage tonight. I have no idea why, but he's barking, so I'm not going to edit it out, so you can listen to my dog barking as well as me chat on. Anyway, the Farseer. So how do I roll up with the Farseer? So Farseers are really cool. They generally, Elder Psychers sort of will always give you that ability to cast. There's plenty of rerolls in there. If you get mortal wound, you got the Ghost Helm, which, you know, on a 5-up the wound is ignored, but you add 3 to that roll, so it's a 2-up to ignore that mortal wound, which is really good. Anyway, so how do I arm my Farseer? He comes armed with a Singing Spear, just because they're really good in combat, and they are really good at shooting, because I'll go into that in a little bit second. And he comes with a Shuriken pistol as well. Psychic powers, I give him Doom and Guide, and the Warlord trait is Bialtan Natural Leader, which allows me to pick a unit within 3 inches of him, and they can reroll failed hits for that phase. Although I also have Guide, which allows me to reroll hits as well. But the way I play my Farseer, I always put him in the middle of 2 Wraith Lords, and they basically just tend to walk up the battlefield and rain destruction and death on people. But we'll get into that in a second as well. So Rune Army comes with a 4-up in Run and Runes of the Farseer. Once in each psychic phase you can reroll any number of dice used for the model's attempt to manifest or deny a psychic power. Really handy. Again, Farseers are really good at casting psychic powers. You expect them to be, they're Elder. And I also give him the relic, the Spirit Stone of Athalan, which basically allows me to reroll any failed psychic tests for the bearer. However, should the result in a second failure, this model then is overwhelmed by waves of grief and cannot attempt to manifest any more psychic powers this phase. So basically he can reroll his psychic powers, but if he does fail it again, he gets really upset, throws his dummy out his mouth, spits the dummy out, tips over his pram, throws his toys out, the whole shebang. Okay, and he basically hit the Singing Spear in combat, wounds on a 2-up, and it's D3 damage, which is quite handy. They only come with 2 attacks, basically. You don't really want them in combat, but people do have a tendency to try and get into combat with your Farseers and your Psychers to try and kill them, basically, which is the right thing to do. And then in shooting, it's an Assault 1, Strength 9, no AP, D3 damage, but you always wound on a roll of a 2, so I'm not sure why it needs to be Strength 9. It could just be, it doesn't need to have Strength 9 because it always wounds on a 2 anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So that's the Farseer. And then the Warlock, which is my second HQ choice. I always liked Warlocks. I think they're a very cheap HQ and they do come with some really cool powers, and I'll go through that now. So the power I always add to my Warlock is Conceal or Reveal, and he has a Witchblade, although that one's armed with a Singing Spear. It does. I always arm him with the Singing Spear, so I don't know why I've put that in Battle Scribe. Anyway, so Conceal. A sort of an infantry unit or biker unit within 18 of the Psyker, your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls or ranged weapons that target that unit until your next psychic phase, which is quite good. And also it does, and then Reveal is choose an enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. It does not receive the benefit of cover against attacks made by the Elder units from your army until the start of your next psychic phase. So that's quite handy if you're coming up against like Raven Guard, who like to hide in cover, sneaky shooty, helps you to get rid of their ability to have cover. And yeah, so basically what I tend to do is, like I said, my Farseer will walk up the board alongside the Wraith Lord, and then the Warlock I would tend to put him close by to a Guardian unit and just walk up the board, casting either Conceal or Reveal onto them. Obviously they both come with Smite as well, so no sort of stress there. So moving on then, we will then talk about the 3 trick choices that I take, why I take them, and actually how handy Guardians can be this edition. Obviously they have OBSEC secured, but we'll go into that in a second. Hold on. Okay, so onto my troop choices. I take 3 units Guardian Defenders. I bring 2 with missile launchers and 1 without, and that's purely because of points. I do like to have Shuriken Cannons, but I actually don't own any Shuriken Cannon support weapons. Boo! So I have to buy some of those, but not today. So I like Guardians. Obviously they give you that OBSEC secure, so they got OBSEC, which is really handy at night when it's completely taking hold missions. You have to hold on to what you got, and Guardians can actually do that quite effectively, although they are only toughness 3, they only have a 5-up save, no built-in Vern, nothing along those sort of lines, but actually they can be quite sturdy with using the right stratagems. And there is a stratagem out there that you can give your unit a 4-up invuln against shooting attacks. So, you know, if you've got an enemy that's really got a hard on for a Guardian unit and they start shooting at it, you can just spend a couple of, I think it's 1 command point, and I get the name of it in a second, and basically it just gives you a 4-up invuln, which is really cool. I mean, I don't know how many people out there have done it. I have thought about using a unit of 20 Guardians with 2 support weapons, Shuriken Cannons, using the stratagem which gives them the ability to come through the webway. It's called Webway Strike, and for 1 CP you can just deploy a unit of 20 Guardians. into somebody 9 inches away, and just absolutely hammer them with 20 or 40 shuriken catapult shots. And then the next turn, so if there's an objective that hasn't been secured by them yet, you can just do that, land on their objective as long as there's nothing within 9 inches of you, stay there and shoot something if they are within 12 inches. That does limit the Guardians a little bit to the range of their weapons. You just sit there, next turn the enemy thinks, aha, Guardians are going to shoot the shit out of these bad boys. What you do is go, ha ha! Not with my Celestial Shield you won't, I'm getting a 4-up invuln. And that makes them that little bit more survivable. And obviously, you know, if you've got a Warlock next to him with Conceal, gives them that +1 in cover as well, which is all that -1 to hit. Again, that helps them and gives them that little bit of survivability. But how I rock with them, 3 units of 10, 2 with, in this list they had missile launchers, and 1 unit with nothing in it, and that unit there would probably be the one I would web wave strike and just deep strike it in and make a mess of the enemy's plans, and try and set on an objective that's far away from everyone and just basically run amok with them. Guardians are actually quite good and they're very cheap as well. I mean, with a missile launcher you're looking at 135 points for a unit that can plug out, you know, 20 shots of catapult weapons, re-rolling the ones because you're Baltan. And then obviously the Aeldari missile launcher has 2 types. It's got the heavy 1 type, which is strength 8, AP2, D6 damage, range 48. So you can take out vehicles and really do some damage. Or you can take the Sunburst option, which is heavy D6, strength 4, AP -1, 1 damage, but it's a blast weapon, so if you come against horde units, big units, that blast really helps. And obviously a shuriken catapult is assault 2, strength 4, AP none, damage 1. But each time you make a wound roll of a 6+ for this weapon, it's -3 AP. So, you know, you get some 6s, weight of shots and all that sort of good stuff. You can actually do a lot of damage with Guardian Defenders. And I really like them. One of these models I think is this one. If it lets me pull it in focus a bit, that one there, that was probably one of my first painted models 22 years ago, and back then you always used to stick pennies in the bottom of them just to give them some counterbalance so that they don't, well, they do fall over, but there's a bit more weight to them so they feel a little bit heavier to move, which is what you want. Okay, so that's my troop choices. What I would tend to do with these is maybe have 1 unit, if I can, securing my objective at the back, but giving them a good vantage point to get some line of sight to do some shooting, and then this one maybe will venture forward with a Warlock and do a lot of damage and try and get into trouble. 9 times out of 10 they get blown off the board, but that's Guardians, they're cheap, they're cheerful, and you just basically swamp the board with them, and with that obsec they're really important, so you actually tend to want to try and keep them as safe as you possibly can, and in doing so try and wipe out your enemy's obsecking units to give you that sort of edge if you're claiming objectives with each other. So that's my troop choices. I really enjoy Guardians, like I said, and they are really cheap. I mean, the unit without any sort of platforms is 100 points, so 10 guys 100 points, that's not too bad. And my troop choice, you know, in this list is about 364 points, which I think is a good balance of where you want with your troops. So what we now do is we will now move on to the fast attack. This unit has had a lot of love, a lot of hate, and a resentment over the years, but I still like taking them, and I'll walk you through that in a sec and the reasons why. Okay, so my fast attack choices for this army are 2 units of Wind Riders. Both armed the same, and I still think they're really good fun to use. There's plenty of stratagems to make them survivable. Back in 7th edition, these guys ran amok, and a lot of people loved them. A lot of people that played against them hated the bloody things, which is really understandable. But I still like using them. I think in 9th edition, when you need a unit to go up and start pestering your enemy, these are great for that. That and Vipers. I don't own any Vipers, but I do plan to get some in the near future. But for the moment, these Wind Riders sort of fill that hole for me. Now, a unit of 3 of them will only cost you 90 points. I arm them with shuriken cannons each, to make full use of the Baltan reroll 1s of shuriken cannons. And you know, this 1 unit, you'll get 9 shots out of it a turn, which is really good. But what they give you is that movement. They got a 6-inch movement, and when they advance you can add 6 to move characteristics. So you are looking at around 22-inch movement from these guys in the movement phase. And the great thing is, because they have battle focus, so something I haven't mentioned yet is Aeldari have battle focus. It used to be called fleet of foot, then they changed it to battle focus, and what that does is it allows them to advance fully and shoot assault weapons. And the great thing with shuriken cannons is they're actually assault weapons, so it still makes you that mobile. So you can literally move 22 inches with these guys, harass your enemy, and not have any sort of negativity to your ballistic skill, which is good. It makes them reliable at shooting. And back in 7th, people used to arm these with scatter lasers, scat bikes, big squads of scat bikes. Oh my god! And you would just point them at a unit and delete it. They used to have target lock as well, so you could fire them at flyers and a 6 to hit. Then anything could shoot at that flyer -1 to their ballistic skill, which is fantastic. But obviously we're now in 9th edition. But what these guys I tend to use them for is I push them up as a 6, and the reason why I do it is 2 units of 3 and not 1 big unit of 6 is just because, you know, you can easily wipe them off the board, and if you've got 6 in you can lose 6 bikes in 1 turn of shooting against you quite easily. So I tend to roll them in 2 squads, small squads, and use their ability to be fast, get into a position and just rain death upon the enemy. And again, because there's a shuriken cannon, it is assault free, 24-inch range, assault free, strength 6, 1 damage, but every time you roll a 6 it's -3 on the wound, you know, and that's helpful. I do think shuriken cannon should be -1 flat anyway, because it's a cannon, not a pistol, not a catapult. It's a cannon, so it should have that ability to have an AP built into it. But who knows what will come out in the new codex? You just don't know these days with GW. And there's another, you know, there's a few stratagems you can use with it. One of them being lightning fast reactions, which is basically any unit that can fly or infantry chosen for target by the enemy in the shooting or fight phase, you can subtract 1 from the hit rolls against that unit. So again, they can be survivable. Especially if you're making your enemy -1 to hit you, because obviously now in 9th you can't go any more than -1, or subtract 1 from the roll. It's always helpful to keep them alive. And then also, if you want to be a bit sneaky, you can use fire and fade, which is basically for 1 command point, you know, shoots in the shooting phase, and if you do so, the unit can immediately move 7 inches as if it was your movement phase. So basically you could pop outside a corner of a building and not have that 5-inch depth affecting your line of sight. Pop out, shoot, and then pop back in, so that your enemy potentially can't shoot you back in the next turn. Again, just being sneaky, being outer, crafty worlds as I like to call them, and trying to keep them alive, which is the name of the game, because they do pump out a fair amount of damage, especially against lightly armoured infantry. They're really effective and really good. So yeah, so that's my fast attack choices. What I will now do is go on to my elite choices. I know you're thinking, Baltan, where are all the aspect warriors? Hey, I got you covered. Let's go into the elites in a second. Okay, so back to the list. So basically in my elite choice, I only bring 1 unit of fire dragons. I love fire dragons. I think they're absolutely fantastic. I bring 6 of them in a normal game, just because a unit of 6 is relatively cheap at 138 points. And I stick them in a Falcon, not a wave serpent. There's no wave serpents in this video, and I'll come to that in a second. And yeah, I really enjoy using fire dragons. Ballistic skill 3, movement 7. Then the normal stats don't really matter. It's the fact that they're all armed with fusion guns. Now there'll be a lot of Space Marine players going out there, oh, I've got an eradicator, my melter's better than your melter. Shut up. We're talking about fire dragons here, boys. So, what I like about fire dragons is they're all armed with a fusion gun, which is a range 12, assault 1, strength 8, -4, d6 damage weapon. Whew! How I tend to use them, people might deep strike them in. I tend to use them in transportation, mainly Falcon. If I want to take a squad of 10, which is ridiculous, I will take a wave serpent. But I like them in the Falcon, because the Falcon, we get onto why I like Falcons in a sec. So always have an Exarch in there. Normally I'll arm him with a fire pike, but in this list for points he's got a fusion gun as well. They all come with melter bombs, which is really, really cool. They also have crack shot built in, which is you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for the Exarch. And then you also have assured destruction, which you can reroll wounds of 1 in the shooting phase against monsters or vehicles, which is what you really want to be pointing your fire dragons at. I will tend to keep them in the Falcon until I need them. I won't necessarily YOLO them up the board and go, "Ah, we're going to kill a big monster or a tanker, here we go, Alpha Strike." Rah. I will tend to be very sensible with them and use them to plug a hole in the line or react to the enemy. If they decide to YOLO something up close to me, I will then react to that and deploy my fire dragons and just say goodbye to them. Again, because they're assault weapons and they have battle focus, you can advance them and they can still fire at their normal ballistic skill because of that battle focus weapon, which is really, really handy, and I really, really like them. These were actually painted, as you can see, they're the old metal ones. And you used to buy these 2 to a blister packet GW, and I think maybe £6 for 2. Fucking bargain, value, great value. And I bought them. 16-year-old Karl painted them. They are battered and chipped, and they do need a repaint. And what I will probably do eventually, because this year 2021 is all about my Aeldari forces, my Drakari, my Aeldari, and I'm probably going to start a Harlequin's army as well. It's all about rebuilding the first army I ever collected, which is Crafty Worlds Beltan. So yeah, really, really like this unit. Really, really strong. You don't really want them in combat. You want to either, you can YOLO them and take a unit if you want and just try and wipe out an Imperial Knight or a tank that you know is going to be a pain in your ass during the game, or a Riptide or something along those lines. And we go on to Tower in a second, because the first time I ever used this current list you see in front of you was against a Tower army, and we'll discuss that a little bit towards the end of the video. Anyway, love fire dragons. I think they're really, really good. I think they're quite cheap at 138 points for a unit of 6 with an Exarch. Stick them in a Falcon, be reactive, float around, plug in a gap in your line and see what happens. Okay, so next what I'll do is I'll move on to the flyer and just discuss why I like taking a Crimson Hunter over a Hem. Okay, so I always take a Crimson Hunter Exarch just because I really, really like the model. And it's another aspect warrior in the list. People will take the Hemlock. I haven't got a Hemlock. I'm not going to talk about the Hemlock, so we're not going to worry about that. So Crimson Hunter Exarch, why I like it? Why do I like it? So it comes armed with, where you can I arm it with 2 Bright Lances and a Post Laser. A Bright Lance is range 36, heavy 1, strength 8, -4 AP and D6 damage. Really, really solid damage dealer. My luck is I always rolled 1s on the damage. And a Post Laser is heavy 2, range 48, strength 8, -3 AP and a flat 3 damage. So all in all, this thing, you point it at a vehicle, a monster, a large infantry vehicle like a Riptide or anything like that, or a Hive Tyrant or anything sort of big monstery, big tanky. This is what this is hunting for. It's absolutely hunting to take out those prime targets, and generally that's what I use it for. So how do I arm it? So I do actually spend a command point from the Psychic Awakening book and give it evade. So I spend 1 CP on it to give it a 5-up invuln. So these things are airborne, so they are flies, so they can maybe attack things with in combat by things with the fly keyword. Obviously it has crash and burn and evade, like I said, 5-up invuln. Hard to hit, so you're -1 to hit, which is great. You can't add any more onto that now, but I still take a -1 over nothing. Marksman Eye as well, which is the Exarch power, which allows you to reroll 1s for this model's range weapons. And Sky Hunters, you can reroll all failed wounds for this model range weapon that target units that can fly, which is really, really good as well. So it's good at taking out its flyers itself. And then it has Wings of Cain, which basically, if the model advances, you add 20 to its movement characteristics. Its max move is 60 inches, so you can move 80 inches with the bloody thing. Which is really, really good. And you can pivot twice in its movement phase, so you can pivot 90, move it, then pivot another 90, so it makes them really fly, flappy, which is really cool. The great thing with this model is that it comes with a base ballistic skill of 2, and then obviously if you start losing your wounds, so your top bracket 7 to 12, your ballistic skill 2, and then 4 to 6 it's ballistic skill 3, 1 to 3 then ballistic skill 4. So you do potato, and you know what I tend to find is with the Crimson Hunter, people will see it on the board and they'll be like, got to kill that bad boy, and a lot of people will absolutely target it. And I think in 8th, that's why a lot of people went Elatok and went with the Hemlock Wraith Fighters, because they are really cool. But I do prefer the Crimson Hunter XR, and just to take out a nice juicy target of my choice and hopefully do it before it dies. But with the 5 pin run, spending that 1 CP from the Psychic Awakening book, that makes it a little bit more survivable, and it has that 5 pin run has saved my bacon on more than one occasion. So that's my Crimson Hunter XR. It is an expensive unit at 210 points, and but I love it, and I always take it because I like the model, I like how it does on the field. So I will now move on to my heavy support choice, and we will go from there. Okay, so I will do the 2 of the heavy choices, or heavy support choices that I have in the army first, and they are Wraith Lords. I absolutely love Wraith Lords, and I actually, because I've been collecting this army since 1999, I do actually have metal ones. I've got about 6 of them. I think I need to rebuild them because they are metal, they do break. So what the plan is, I will strip them, rebuild them, pinning and using green stuff to hold the joints into place, and then use them as well as these guys because they're really cool. I really like them. I do actually consider them for me an auto include unit in my list. And there's probably people out there now watching this going, oh Carl, you're absolutely bloody mad. Wraith Lords, come on son, are you competitive or not? I like them. The way I set them up are 150 points each, so they're not that expensive. How I do it is I have 2 shuriken catapults on the wrists. This dude in particular comes armed with 2 missile launchers, and I count the Bright Lance as a Ghost Glaive. Unfortunately I bought it like this, so somebody had already converted it. But it is what it is, and down at the Gloucester Tabletop Gaming Community that I play, nobody will ever really care. So yep, that's how I arm it. So Wraith Lords, what are they? They're basically old, all Elder warriors or Aeldari, as they like to call it now, have spirit stones on their chest. So when they die, their soul is trapped within the spirit stone to stop she who thirsts from devouring their soul, and then it goes into the infinity circuit within the craft world that they belong to. And then during real times of need, spirit seers will remove the soul of a fallen warrior and implant it into a Wraith Guard or a Wraith Lord, and that's essentially what it is. They used to have a really weird rule that if they rolled a 6 on movement before they moved, they couldn't really do anything that turn, but that's gone. And yeah, I really like the Wraith Lord. So that's how they're armed. They are toughness 8, strength 7. They have 10 wounds, 4 attacks, they're leadership 9, and they have a 3-up save. There's no invuln save that you can give these guys, which isn't the end of the world, but there is a stratagem that allows you to regain D3 wounds. I think it's 1 command point, and you can just try and, if one takes a battering 1 turn, you can try and revive it and stop it from bracketing. And obviously if you've got the Ghost Glaive on it, they're +2 strength, so they're strength 9 in combat, AP -4 and D6 damage. So in combat they are actually really effective in combat as well. They are weapon skill and ballistic skill 3, and that's when they have 6 to 10 wounds. When you go down to 3 to 5, you're looking at a 4-up weapon skill and ballistic skill, and a 5-up if you go down to 1 to 2 wounds, if you are that heavily potato. And sometimes that stratagem will actually come in handy to regain D3 wounds. So if you're down to 1 wound and you regain 3, you're up to 4, which is quite nice. And if you're on 2 and you regain 3, you're still in that 5, that ballistic skill 4 bracket, but you're not hitting on 5s, you're actually hitting on 4s, which is really good. And obviously in 9th now, they can move and shoot at their normal ballistic skill. They don't take any penalties for moving and shooting with heavy weapons, which is really good, and that makes them that little bit better, and I think that's why I've always liked them. And to be honest, if you look at the models, these are just like the Wraith Knight, which people don't really take anymore. There's another video on the channel about Wraith Knights. They're just really cool models. I will fix up the old ones that I have, and I'll bring them to the channel and you can have a look. See what they used to look like, but I still like the old stuff, just because I'm sort of a fool for the old sort of models that Aeldari have. I did have this one crazy idea back in '99. The Aeldari, I bought my first Wraith Lord, and the shop was selling Zoanthropes, which is the Tyranids psychic unit, and anyway, the head of their Zoanthrope fitted exactly on the mount for the Wraith Lord. So what I did, because when you're 15 you think you're hard, don't you? You think you know everything. I put a Zoanthrope head onto the Wraith Lord. I thought it looked absolutely badass, and everybody laughed at me. It was great moment. And yeah, just talking about Wraith Lords actually brought that moment back to me, so that's really cool. So yeah, I really like Wraith Lords. I actually think people should take them more. I want to see them more on field and on grid or what have you, because they're a good unit, solid unit. And how I tend to play them is I will get the that's my elbow. I will get the Farseer, and they will basically walk up like that. And my two big bodyguards. You're going to come at me, bro? I've got two boys next to me, and that's generally how I will rock that. Although they're separate units, I will tend to do this to help them shoot better, basically. So I will then move on to my final heavy support choice of the night, and then just give you an overview of the list and how I would use it. Okay, so the last choice in the army is my Falcon. I really like Falcons. I think they're a really good unit, especially in 9th. I think they've come back to fruition, purely because they can carry a small amount of guys. They can move and shoot at normal ballistic skill now, which is really handy. I mean, yeah, it can only carry 6 guys, but only bring 6 fire dragons, you know what I'm saying? So, Falcon, what is it? It's an anti-grav tank. It comes armed with a pulse laser and a scatter laser and a shirking catapult is how this one is armed. Pulse laser is just like the Crimson Hunter. It has a heavy 2, range 48, strength 8, -3, flat 3 damage. The scatter laser is 4 shots, strength 6, no AP, 1 damage. Range 36 inches, and again it's a basic weapon, nothing really special with scatter laser. You can swap that out to something a little bit different if you want to, and I tend to just keep it how it is because I quite like it. And shuriken catapult at the bottom is basically assault 4, strength 4, 1 damage, and if you roll 6s on the wounds it's -3 AP. And yeah, it's great. These days it's got a movement which is really cool of 16 inches. Abilities, it explodes. So again, there's nothing really special about it. But what I really like is the fact that it can move and shoot at normal ballistic skill. It's toughness 7. It's got 12 wounds, 3 up save, no invuln, but I believe you can give it a feel no pain with the special, with a bit of war gear to go onto it. But yeah, Falcons, really good. They do exactly what they say on the tin. They are durable. They're not a wave serpent by any stretch of the imagination. I just like them because I take 6 fire dragons. Why do I need to take a wave serpent that has a capacity of 10 when I'm only going to take 6 anyway? So the Falcon does that job quite nicely for me. Points wise, it's 135 points, so actually it's a good value unit for 135 points, and it does dish out a lot of damage, and you can basically aim it at a tank or a monster creature and sort of really do a lot of damage to it. And yeah, it probably isn't the current thing to take Falcons, but I do think they're going to have a big comeback, or they are getting a big comeback recently, and yeah, I really like them. This one, I'm missing a canopy, boo, I'm going to have to try and get hold of one of those. So that is my 1500 point list, and what we now do is we will talk about the tactics that I would take in this army when I'm playing against people, and talk about a game that I had recently or before lockdown with this army and how it went. Okay, so that's my 1500 point Baltan Crafty Worlds army. Really enjoy using this. I think it's very balanced. It's got a good mixture of speed and destruction, and that's pretty much what you want your Eldar army to be, I think. I think you don't want it to heavily fall into one category of extremely fast but unable to dish out damage, or can do a load of damage but you can't really get them at the board. And you know, with Ninth the way it is, you need to have mobility and speed within your list. And you know, the slowest things I have are actually Guardians of Wraithlords, but again, you know, they move 7, they move 8, so that they're not that slow compared to an army, say Death Guard, which are terribly slow. So one of the games I've had recently with this one is a guy down at the Gloucester Tabletop Gaming Community. I believe it was my first game in Ninth, and his name was John. He brought his Tau, thinking he was Rocky Balboa, and I brought my the list that you see in front of you. John is a very good guy. He doesn't play a lot of 40k, and he brought his I believe he had a Riptide, some broadswords, some battle suits, loads of bloody drones. Bloody 8 drones. If you ever played against a Tau army with drones that just pop up in front of your shots and take it on the chin, oh, that wound me up quite a bit that night. But yeah, generally what I did was I moved the Guardians up the middle of the board. I kept this unit back. I didn't deep strike in, I kept it back to hold my objective. These two moved up on the left flank with the Warlock. The bikes moved up the left flank as well, and on the right flank I moved the Crimson Hunter, the 2 Wraithlords and the Farseer, and in the middle I actually kept the Falcon and Fire Dragons into the middle, and they really didn't do that much that game. The Falcon kept pommeling the Riptide and the broadswords, you know, I think I got the Fire Dragons out at the end to take out some battle suits. But all in all, it was a very good game. I believe I lost a couple of Guardians and most of the bikes, but everything mainly in the army that was big and scary was intact, and the Tau had a humiliating defeat. But yeah, it was a great game of 40k. I can't remember the points, but you know, we had a good chat afterwards over a few beers, and we decided that this list was quite balanced and quite fun to play against, and I really enjoyed playing with it. And yeah, I will absolutely take it again, and hopefully the people down at the club are watching this and go, Karl says he's bringing Eldar, I know what he's taking. So guys, absolutely thank you for watching the video. I hope to do more of these, what would Karl bring, and sort of describe the tactics that I would use with that army. I'm not a competitive player, I just play down at my local club. But I've been playing for 20 years, and hopefully over that time I've picked up a few tricks of the trade, as they say. But thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, it really does help. I do this for fun and add more dynamic to my hobby, and again, thank you for watching.